September 13th, 2019. Breon Ansley was going for his second Olympia title defense and win his third title overall, while Chris Bumstead was coming off of back-to-back second place placings in 2017 and 2018. With the Classic Physique division quickly evolving and Chris Bumstead's name getting a lot of buzz, a lot of people were wondering whether or not this was going to be his year. And it was, because at the end of that night, Chris Bumstead ended up dethroning Breon Ansley and winning his first Olympia title in the process, which came as a bit of a surprise to those of us who were actually watching the prejudging and finals. Not because Chris Bumstead didn't look good or bring a fantastic package, but because Breon Ansley did the exact same. Let me elaborate. We know in bodybuilding that judges set the standard for every single division. Whoever they crown champion is the person that they set as the face and the standard for all other athletes to follow, at least in their respective division. But we also know that to dethrone a reigning champion, it's incredibly difficult, especially if that champion comes back improved or the same. We know historically in bodybuilding that the reigning champion almost always gets the benefit of the doubt, so being just close enough is not going to cut it. For an upset to happen, the reigning champion needs to be completely off their game and the number one contender needs to bring their best package ever. That is the simplest formula for an upset. A few examples include Jay Cutler dethroning Ronnie Coleman in 06, Dexter Jackson dethroning Jay Cutler in 08, and Sean Roden dethroning Phil Heath in 2018. Now, the case of Chris and Breon does not follow the formula for an upset, because although Chris came back much improved, Breon Ansley had also brought his best look ever. So by traditional bodybuilding standards, Chris did not do enough to dethrone Breon Ansley in 2019. Cbum fanboys, I am not sorry.
You need to leave!
Go back and look at comparison shots of Chris from 2018 to 2019 and you will see very marginal improvement, especially in the areas where Breon was significantly better than him, the back and bicep.
He's always on point, he's shredded. His back is his strongest point, my back is one of my weakest.
And as we know, shows are won from the back. Now, if we also take a look at some comparison shots of Breon from 2018 to 2019, we will see the same thing, marginal improvement. Yes, this was a much tighter and crisper classic package, which is exactly what the judges wanted to see. On top of that, he was still beating Chris from the back like he was in previous years. Chris did bring some better front shots, especially that vacuum, which we know is very, very classic, but it wasn't anything different than what he was bringing the previous years. And in terms of the side chest, as imposing as Chris looked standing next to Breon and George, Breon looked just as full.
From the front, I had him beat in a few poses. We tied from the side, probably he had me beat from the back, but overall, I guess a complete package. Judges gave it to me tonight.
So if the matchup between these two was that close that year, why didn't Breon Ansley retain? Remember when I said that the Classic Physique division was still evolving at this time? That's because it really was. Go back and look at the first Classic champion, Danny Hester, and look at Breon Ansley. They look very different. This was because what Classic is and is supposed to be was still in development. Nobody really knew what the judging criteria was. And because nobody really knew, there was this stigma in the industry that Classic Physique was just a watered down version of bodybuilding light almost. And the judges were trying to actively change that. Now, although Breon Ansley did do enough to retain the title, the judges did not think that the physique that he had was still an accurate representation of what they wanted Classic to be. Chris had a physique that was a better embodiment of what the Classic look was supposed to be like. So crowning him to be the next champion was much more of a strategic move by the judges to shape the future of the division. It was an effort to create a better definition of what Classic Physique is supposed to be, considering Chris Bumstead did have a much better Classic package. In fact, this was the case both in 2017 and 2018, the years he came in second. But the problem was, those years, the judges were still judging Classic Physique as if it was bodybuilding light. So in those years, Breon Ansley, of course, came out on top. But that shift in 2019 was the judges' vote of confidence in Chris Bumstead's ability to actually improve on what he brought that year. And also be able to influence the amount of eyes that would be on the sport, because at the time, he was significantly more popular than Breon Ansley. This was definitely a major talking point going into that matchup, because a lot of people were wondering how much Chris Bumstead's popularity would actually factor into his placing. Truth is, it wasn't as big of a factor as some people thought it would be, because despite how many followers he still had a physique that was the exact embodiment of what the judges wanted the future of Classic Physique to look like. So the fact that he may have had certain lacking body parts didn't really take away from how good he looked overall. All in all, although I didn't completely understand why Breon Ansley was dethroned in 2019, I didn't disagree with the decision then, and I still don't disagree with it today. Especially when we consider how far that division has come. Ever since Chris Bumstead won that title, We've seen better quality Classic Physique athletes just bring better and better packages to rival his, which has definitely been improving the overall caliber of competition that we have in Classic Physique, especially considering more and more people are coming to this division. And every Olympia since 2019 has been better than the last, with 2022 shaping up to be the most exciting Classic Physique Olympia we've ever seen. And I think we owe a big part of that growth to Chris Bumstead and Breon Ansley. On one final note, Chris Bumstead did take the criticism about his lacking body parts and the minimal improvement very, very seriously, because in 2020 he came back and dominated. I mean, my jaw dropped at how much he had improved, specifically in his back. But we can discuss that in another video. If you like this video, consider giving it a like. If you want to see more content like this, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you know when I drop my next video. I'm Large Kofi. Thank you for watching.